Plot: Butterflies are free. 1972. All Don Baker wants is a place of his own away from his overprotective mother. Don's been blind since birth, but that doesn't stop him from setting up in a San Francisco apartment and making the acquaintance of his off-the-wall, liberated actress neighbor Jill. Don learns the kind of things from Jill that his mother would never have taught him, and Jill learns from Don what growing up and being free is really all about. Voiceover off.
When you're blind and watching movies, what will you find? A blind superhero whose superpowers are acting like he's not blind. A sighted actor over dramatically touching people's faces. And maybe the whole joke is that they're bumping into different places. A spectacular, macular generation. From tunnel vision to your television. And do they off this movie with audio descriptions? They're movie buffs who know their stuff. You'll be thoroughly entertained. Join Sky and Melissa throughout film history and Citizen White Cane.
Hello.
Hi there.
And welcome to Citizen White Cane. This is a podcast where we are the unpaid interns of diversity consulting. I'm Sky McLeod.
I'm Melissa Bukta. That was good. That was a good
Yeah,
one.
I know. It's very. It's not, I don't know if it's topical, but it's relevant. I don't know.
Yeah, it works. I liked it.
Yeah, and so today we are talking about Butterflies Are Free.
Right. It was your week to pick the movie. And yeah, this is the one you chose.
Yeah.
So that's super duper exciting.
Yeah, and I had actually not, even though I picked it, I had not seen it. My mom, when I told her we were doing this podcast, or like early on, she was just like, I really want you guys to watch this movie because it was a movie I saw back in the day, and I would love to know what you guys think of it.
Oh, really? So you hadn't seen this?
No, I hadn't seen it. No.
Okay, I thought you'd seen it before.
No,
Okay,
no.
Cool.
Yeah, so this was my first time seeing it.
Oh,
but,
wow.
Yeah, it's definitely it was cool. I was surprised because it's like 1972. So I don't know. I would love to know kind of your kind of starting take, but I felt like it was pretty just kind of like not offensive for 1972. Like I was surprised that it felt like more, in a way, more genuine than some stuff that has come out more recently.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't necessarily think... Well, I'm not going to say like you could make the same exact movie today because you couldn't. But it was incredibly grounded, incredibly grounded and incredibly realistic. I think this is the most... Besides the documentary, this is the most grounded, realistic thing we've watched.
I'm always bringing the realism here.
Yeah, I mean, the mother is a bit of a caricature in the beginning, and Jill kind of herself is a little bit in the beginning,
right?
But Don, I always want to call him Daniel, but his name is Donnie, Don, our blind character, is probably the most real and grounded through the entire thing. Yeah. And we should mention this movie is based on the play of the same name, the stage play. Yes. Butterflies Are Free. And so this definitely, and this is one of the things that surprised me, because this movie feels like a stage play. I mean, it practically is. There's two locations. Yeah. Three locations. Their apartment, the restaurant, and the clothing store. That's it. That's all of San Francisco that you see.
Right, and the play actually takes place in New York City, so they changed it for the movie, but it's not really clear why.
No, and it felt like New York City, and that's where I thought we were for the beginning, until one of the characters says San Francisco, and I was like, oh, we're in San Francisco. Okay, whatever. It makes no difference.
Though you do see like a hill at some point at the very beginning. There's kind of a montage of people walking around in the streets, and when I saw the hill, I was like, "Oh, we're in San Francisco."
Oh, okay. I did not notice the hill, and I just saw the people, and I was like, "Oh, obviously we're in New York City."
Yeah, I mean, it's very like, because it's the 70s, so there's a lot of hippiness. But San Francisco, I mean, you could, it felt kind of like in some ways like some Haight-Ashbury vibes.
Yes, I mean, when they go in the clothing store, you're absolutely in San Francisco. Yeah, and the gentleman at the clothing store who helps them out, you're in San Francisco. But that's not important. It could be, the story could be told in New York, in San Francisco, in any major city.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It's, I mean, because it is kind of, I was saying before we started recording, kind of weirdly, as quarantine goes on, weirdly quarantine appropriate, and said so much of the movie takes place just in one apartment.
Well, the opening scene, as I was watching, I clocked the opening scene at 25 minutes before they leave the apartment to go to the clothing store. So, and that's when it hit me. I was like, oh yeah, this is definitely a stage play. Absolutely. Because that's how a stage play how some stage plays work, or a straight play. But I was never bored. And I was never looking at my watch going, oh my God, are we done yet? When are we going to be done? Because I mean, everybody has very interesting things to say, very real things to say. Even though it was a play, the dialogue didn't feel stilted either. It just felt incredibly real.
Feels very real. It is definitely kind of like, because why I say that it felt very quarantine-y is because I feel like there is, to some extent, like when you're making art, there's a sense right now of just like feeling very trapped, and the amount of like actually engaging stories you can tell feels very limited. And so I thought it was kind of cool to like see a good example of the ability to tell a story that takes place in, you know, kind of what we all have access to right now.
3 locations.
Yeah, and really the 2 other locations are one scene each.
Oh, yeah,
and so they're very limited that they're even in those places too.
Oh no, this movie takes place in Don and Jill's apartment, which is 2 apartments connected by a door.
Yeah.
That used to be locked, but through the course of the movie is unlocked so that they have access to the entire thing.
Right.
Let's see. So our characters, there's not very many of them.
Yeah, we have 4.
4, including the store attendant.
Oh, we have 5 then,
one.
because there's also the boy, the other guy at the end of the movie.
Oh, Ralph. I forgot about him. Yeah. Okay. So we have Dawn.
Right. Who's blind.
Who's a blind person, totally blind, and we have Jill, who is the girl next door.
Right, literally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yes.
And figuratively.
Literally and figuratively, yes.
Yes.
Played by Goldie Hawn.
Yes.
A very cute, adorable, bubbly Goldie Hawn, but also very real and grounded and natural when she needs to be, when the scene calls for it.
Yeah, she plays kind of a very ditzy, like 19-year-olds, which that
no
is very
no. She said she's 19. She's like, oh, I'm only 19. I'm like, bitch, you are not 19.
She was 27, I think, or something in the movie. Something around there. Yeah,
she had to have been, because
she does not look like she's 19.
Acts like a 19-year-old.
Right, exactly.
She's a very convincing, obviously, she's a very convincing actor as a 19-year-old, but yeah, there's no
it is kind of funny because because it's true that it wouldn't make, if she was 25, then it would feel wrong. Like the character, you would have to change the character to make her older.
Yeah,
so
and then this
is kind of funny.
The blind guy's only supposed to be a few years older than her, and I mean, he could play her father basically.
Is it like?
But not. I mean,
not really. I mean, they don't look that different in age.
No,
because they both look too old for the character they're playing.
Yeah. Which makes like the love scenes bearable, because I'm like, okay, good. I don't have to watch a 40-year-old make out with a 19-year-old. I don't want.
Yeah, I didn't think he was that old looking.
No. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but yeah, no.
I feel like they both seem fairly. Around, like, both seem like they're in their late 20s to me. I didn't actually look at how old he was when the movie came out or was filmed, but
yeah, I would buy that they're in their late 20s.
But so they're we start the movie kind of like we kind of follow Goldie Hawn at the beginning of the movie.
Right, as she's coming home, and she's wearing 3 hats and 2 coats, and she has a giant weird handbag, so we know this character is eccentric.
Yeah, that was one of those things where I kept thinking, like, what was the point of that as a character introduction? Like,
well,
it didn't fully click with me.
It kind of worked for me. But you know, it's visual language. It implies that, oh, she is different, she's eccentric, she goes against the mold, she does her own thing.
Right. But it is kind of, yeah, I mean, the fact that she takes off like 10 layers of clothing, and it's just kind of like she has like a Russian nesting doll kind of outfit where it just keeps taking things off.
Yeah, she could have been coming from her favorite thrift store. Maybe she just bought all that stuff and didn't have a bag, or they didn't have bags and she just carried it home like that.
She might have. I feel like we see her like maybe shopping. I'm trying to remember, because at the beginning is one of the few scenes outside of the apartment, and where she is going around and buying like, or no, we don't know what she's doing. Wait, I just don't remember what she's doing at the beginning, because a lot of it is, okay, at the beginning a lot of the scenes are just the shots are just people in San Francisco walking around.
Right.
So we kind of meet her later on.
Yeah, this is all establishing stuff. She's coming home, she walks all over her apartment so we can see her apartment basically, and establish that it's there. But we only get to see her apartment for like the first one time, because this story takes place mostly in his
Right. And she's a mess. Maybe part of her having all that clothes was she puts it all on the bed. And so it makes it seem like, because part of her character thing is she just is like very flighty, but like messy, like specifically messy, because she keeps referring back to the fact that her room is a mess. Like that comes up like multiple times in the movie. It's a big plot point.
She's bohemian, I guess, I would describe. Yeah, she's bohemian. So she comes home and we hear this lovely guitar music playing, and at first I thought, oh, it's the soundtrack, or she's listening to the radio or something. It's not technically. It's Don. He is a blind musician,
right,
and he has moved to San Francisco to try and make it.
Right. And I forgot that we hear him like playing music at the beginning. But then the other thing during that time is she goes to she's now wearing no clothes but a bra and underwear.
You want to see Goldie Hawn in nothing but a bra and underwear? Watch this movie. Yeah, she's I wouldn't say half of the movie, but at least, I don't know, 20-35% of the movie she's just in a bra and panties,
just hanging out. Yeah, she and that's kind of like when she takes off all of the clothes, she just has like I think she has a robe on.
Yeah, she puts a bathrobe on.
She puts a robe on, and then she like sees that Don is like standing right at the window, and she assumes that he is like watching her, basically.
A peeping Tom.
Yeah.
So she flashes him. And
then he just doesn't react.
No, nothing. And that's
she's like, what's happening?
Yeah, and that's your first kind of note that like, oh, there's something different about this character. And I wonder if the stage version has this scene, because I mean, obviously the stage version and the film version are going to be different, but I wonder if this scene, it feels like this scene is added
really
just for the film.
Why do you see that?
Because if I were staging this,
right,
throw it out there, the main set is his apartment, the interior of his apartment, and maybe the set would have the ability to become a clothing store if we went there, or maybe in the play she just has all those clothes and she brings them to him and makes him wear them, and he finds his like style or something, and maybe they don't even go to the thrift shop. Because in film you can go anywhere. You don't have to stay in one room, but in the theater version you would. So I'm guessing.
Well, normally you wouldn't have to stay in one room.
True. Yeah. Some theater productions you go all over the place, but
no, I mean film right now you have to stay.
Room. And yeah. So yeah, I can't really make any comparisons because obviously I haven't read the play, but I very much want to read the play and compare.
Yeah, well, because I feel like that makes sense, and I'm just coming from the filmic perspective, but like just as an establishing, like it's a cute like subversion of a certain like trope that like, and it's also a funny way to introduce a blind character. I feel like just because it is kind of the blind character coming up against the weird assumptions of sighted people.
Which happens a lot in this movie.
Yeah, there's a lot of that's a big theme of the movie.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I thought it was cute.
It was funny. It was a funny joke.
But
and that basically gets these the two characters to meet because he is trying to have a phone conversation. Their walls are paper thin, basically,
right.
because all that separates him and her is a door. And so he is trying to have a phone conversation and she is playing her radio too loud.
Well, because he starts having a phone conversation and is yelling.
Right.
And so she then later on turns on the conversation after listening to the conversation for a little bit. And the conversation is with his mom.
Right.
Who is a very overprotective, like just kind of needing to.
She's very well to do.
Right, that's part of her character.
Yeah, they come from money. Don comes from money, and she, he's her son, and he's blind, and she doesn't think that he can make it on his own, and she wants him home, so she can watch over him. Right.
Well, and I think, it is kind of like, it's interesting. I don't know. I feel like that's, I think something that's, like, maybe a common trope, but I feel like a very relevant one when we talk about disability, because I think there's still this like assumption that disabled people never have independence.
Well, yeah,
and
like
that you're kind of like kind of infantilized, sort of like that you just never get to grow up, basically.
Well, that and we just cannot function in this world. We cannot function in normal, quote unquote, normal society.
Right, and that's the other thing is he even talks about, and this is the play is based off of an actual person who was a lawyer, and whose name is Hal Kritz, I believe. So it is kind of like, which I think is part of why I felt like it felt pretty genuine and realistic, like, because it is based on a real person. And though the real person like went to Harvard and is a lawyer and also went to Oxford, so kind of someone who was able to, I'm sure probably also with money if you went to those two schools, kind of be able to get a real profession. But part of it is that he can't, like, that he talks about having a lot less options for like the jobs he can get, and like kind of, and I mean I think it also is, I kind of like that it shows that power dynamic of you have dependence on parents when you don't have the same ability to, like, you just don't have the same access to societal like privilege, basically.
Right. Whereas Jill, exactly. Whereas Jill is coming from a world where she had been married to one person for 6 days and then left because you're 19.
Right.
Because you're 19. Holy shit.
She got married at 16.
Oh yeah, she got married at 16, right? And then left him. You're 16. Anyway.
Shouldn't be getting married.
Yeah. No. But she comes from a family, she basically has a biological father and then 3 stepfathers and a mother whom she can't really depend on. It sounds like there's still might be maybe a relationship with Jill's mother, but
yeah,
isn't.
We kind of only get hints into like what's going on with the mom. She marries a lot of guys, and she seems like, because Jill talks about how she became a hippie to like make her mom mad, but then her mom was like, "Oh, I like this," and then she started taking like adopting that style, and so she was like, "Well, this is pointless if she's not gonna like."
And then the joke is that Jill tried to become a young Republican.
Yeah,
and that just didn't take.
And she was like, "That's not a real thing." I think isn't that the line specifically? She's like, "But it turned out that there's no such thing."
Both characters are essentially in the story searching for freedom.
Right. And that's where the name comes in, the movie comes in too. Butterflies Are Free, which is kind of like something that is part of the movie. It's one of those movies where they say the name of the movie multiple times.
It comes from a Dickens quote, the quote by Charles Dickens.
Right. Which Jill likes, but then she quotes it as Mark Twain. which is kind of a common problem with the internet as well. That quotes just get misattributed to Mark Twain. So this is proto Mark Twain quote, Kate. But he knows it's Dickens because he's like learned of the. This is the second character that's like, I read more than everyone else.
Well, if
in a row.
If you think, sure. I mean, but if you think about where he comes from, he comes from money. He comes from a place where he can have all of this access. Like he has access to Braille books because he can get them.
Right.
Which
we don't have like a contrasting character in the relationship to Braille books, but we have kind of, I guess, the contrasting character of Jill, who like isn't as read. Like it's kind of like a street book smart kind of dynamic that they have in a way.
Yeah. And he teaches her and she teaches him in different ways.
Yeah. And part of it is that she, like, at the beginning is very I actually found it very funny, but she like cannot handle the idea of him being blind.
Oh, I know. The whole first scene is just her going round and round and round and round about him being blind, because more than likely Jill has never met somebody like that.
Right.
Because why would she? And Don has never met someone like Jill, because why would he? If his mother is controlling everything that he does.
Is very like well, he kind of has met someone, because they're part of his backstory is that a different woman was who kind of, we get a sense is similar to Jill, like in a lot of ways. Linda,
yeah. Linda.
And she is like kind of opened his eyes to like being more independent. I guess openness science is a bad metaphor, but
she was his first love.
Right. And kind of, but also like the person who got him to kind of, I guess just kind of like that, kind of college age, like breaking out of the kind of more child position where you're kind of then kind of exploring adulthood without the kind of. Right.
She brought him into adulthood. She gave him, he says at one point, she gave him the confidence.
Right, he says that. And it definitely feels, because he says stuff about like, and this is, I guess, the age of the hippies, but like different things that she did was like taking him to parties and like, I don't know, he lists stuff about, but it definitely, I like that though, because it was this kind of like, he is so self-assured too, like as a character, which I thought was really nice, because you didn't have to like watch someone be like, oh wait, I like am still a good person, like,
right. And then when he takes that turn near the end and decides, well, we'll get there, but makes a decision. It's amazing how many facets to these characters there are, because you think the mother is just going to be one note, and she's not.
Yeah.
And you think Don and Jill might be one note. You think Jill might be one note, and she isn't.
Right. They are very, and they feel very genuinely, like they feel kind of like over the top versions of very real people, like, because in some ways they are like heightened from what that kind of personality would be, like but in a way that doesn't feel disingenuous. It just feels kind of like a way of heightening the comedy and drama of it, which I like. Yeah, I like that, because it's not, because sometimes when you do heighten character things, you heighten to a point where it no longer feels like real.
This film was classified as a comedy, and it is. There are funny moments, and there were definitely moments where I was chuckling, and the situation that the characters got into is funny and cute. But this movie has drama. It is.
Well, on Wikipedia it says it's a drama comedy.
Oh, yeah,
which
so,
it
yeah,
didn't
dramedy.
say.
Yeah.
It didn't say dramedy because I guess that was before that portmanteau, which Wikipedia is not before. Dramedy was a portmanteau probably, but I guess maybe when it was released.
But yeah, it
was a drama comedy.
It's a dramedy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I really like those sort of stories. If you make me laugh and ingratiate me in the beginning, then when something incredibly heartbreaking happens or you want to have drama, I'm with you. It's earned.
I used to say that until I was like, no, I will not watch. I just don't care about things that aren't dramedies. I was like, I really love this. Turned into, no, this is the only way to make media. You can't, if you're not, I don't like things that are just one or the other. I've put my foot down. I'm only a dramedy person because it's real. That's what life is.
Well, and it's like Scrubs, I think, is one of the show that demonstrates this the best. I mean, because it is a comedy, and in almost every episode, it is essentially a comedy. But then you turn around, and I mean, the show is set in a hospital, and it's doctors, so obviously some people are going to die or get hurt,
right?
And something happens, and they have these beautiful, wonderful, poignant moments, or these incredibly sad moments, but everything feels completely earned.
Yeah,
and that's absolutely how I felt with this movie. And I got a little worried with Danny, Danny.
Right, because he in the movie says he doesn't want to be called Danny.
Donnie.
Donnie.
Oh my God. I knew I was going to say Danny. I told myself, I was like, don't say Danny. His name is Donnie.
Did we have a Danny? Wasn't Blind Dating Danny?
That's his name, Danny.
Which is kind of annoying in that like those two movies are probably the most similar. I wonder, it makes you wonder if there was some like kind of influence.
See, I think Blind Dating is more of a straight up comedy, romantic comedy. There is stakes and things happen, but it is not a drama. It never gets anywhere near. Whereas this, especially towards the end, is a drama. There are dramatic elements.
It definitely feels more era specific, I think. Two movies do.
Yeah.
Like I feel like this felt more like the kind of the kind of a comedy film in the 70s.
Well, such that like the only real things that kind of raised my hackles a bit as far as the relationship between Don and Jill is Jill comes in, announces herself. They have the whole scene together where she's picking apart him being blind, basically, and then they're in love, or he's in love, essentially,
with her,
and she likes him very much. I'd say even loves him, but is terrified of commitment because she has baggage.
Yeah, she's definitely. It's interesting, and I want to kind of like go through and remember what the different things that she is bothered by, because I feel like that was really fun. But to like, because she comes up with all these there's like a lot of beats to that scene, so I think might be.
It's great. Oh, okay. Well, so the whole thing starts off. She obviously comes in and doesn't know he's blind because he, like any blind person, knows where he lives.
Right, exactly.
I can walk around my house without a cane in pitch darkness and know exactly where I am.
Yeah, definitely.
Easy, yeah. So he obviously is doing that. He knows where everything is placed because he placed it. And so they have their cigarettes and are talking, and she happens to notice that he is putting his cigarette ash on the table, just casually, like, whatever.
Because she grabs the ashtray.
Mm-hmm. She moved the ashtray. So she makes a comment, "Oh my God, you're a bigger slob than I am. You just want to put your cigarette ashes right there on the table." And then he asked about did you move the ashtray?
She's like, "Yeah, of course I did. What, are you blind?" He's like, "Yeah."
I was like, oh, here it comes. Here it fucking comes. Yeah.
But I just like that. That's a conversation I've had so many times of just being like, yeah. And then people are like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm blind. I don't know. What do you mean? What do you mean? I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory.
Usually it's when I have to reveal that I can't read something, a sign or a menu or something.
Right. But I like that because he's just like, yes. And then I feel like she's like, I'm trying to remember exactly what
she's absolutely kind of bowled over by the fact that he is a person who cannot see, and he's living on his own, and he has a home, and because he tours the entire apartment. She's like, how do you know
and
where
he's like,
anything
this
is?
Is my fridge. This is my table that's also a bathtub. This is my couch. This is my bed, and it's up. Which, that bed, I would not ever have that bed.
Oh, like, I know. I'm like, you, sir, are a very confident blind person because there's no fucking way.
Because it's like a top bunk.
It's not the bed that scares me. It's not the height that scares me. It's not even falling out of the bed that scares me. It's the ladder. I can't deal with the ladder.
That's the scary thing. Yeah. I don't. I mean, like, ladders are terrifying. Just
and
to
these
get
guys,
down is scary.
Yes, and these guys climb that ladder like fucking monkeys for the entire thing. It's funny.
It is very, I'm like, oh my God. And he's like, they're like, what if you fall out of the bed? And he's just like, what?
I'll climb back in
anyone
again.
Can, yeah.
That's exactly, I'll just climb back in.
But he's also just like, I feel like he says something about how, like, you don't need to be, like, people who can see could also fall out of the bed.
Yes, he does. That's what he says. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have, he says you can be sighted and fall out of the bed.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is true. If you're, like, sleeping, then it doesn't really, it actually is irrelevant if you can see or not. You're in equal danger of that.
Yes. They talk about reading and his ability to read.
Right.
She's like, well, how do you do that? Braille. I love how casual he is about everything.
Funny.
It's really funny. He's just Braille.
It's really great because it's like because it does make it's kind of like the idea of the unusual character. Like, and then the, for lack of a better term, straight man person, that he is just completely or voice of reason is what
that's where the comedy comes from,
right? But that he, as the blind person in that scene, is like very squarely voice of reason, and she's definitely the one who's the unusual person of just being like that she cannot understand this. It's just like very much ridiculous that she would that this is so hard for her to understand, but in a very
It's
funny way.
It's funny because I wanted to feel kind of offended and be like, well, why wouldn't? And I don't know. I just couldn't.
Well, because I feel like it was I really liked it because you're very. It's the movie's asking you to relate to him, not her, in that scene, and the comedy is coming from her behavior, and so like because if he was. Either offended or because the fact that he's just sitting there very patiently answering like each question and just being like, this is a very easy to understand thing, but I'm just going to calmly continue to like explain to you what reality is and just like, and I think it's also nice because you get like all of them didn't feel that unreal, like the kinds of like I'm like kind of everything she says someone has said to me at some point.
Absolutely. I've had parts of this conversation multiple times with people,
right. And so the fact that you like, because just regulating your emotions in those moments is not always like easy, and so to be able to like watch someone who is just so like sturdy and like here's where reality is, and I'm just gonna let you come to that
just
point.
just very at home and confident in his surroundings,
right,
which is why
nice.
Which is why the conversation with the mother in the car with her and his mom is really interesting, because the mother brings up the fact that, oh, you've only seen him when he knows what's going on, when he is in his element, when he's at home.
Her conversation with Jill,
yes.
Yeah.
You've never seen him like I have when you drop him in a new place and he panics.
Right. Which is really, I mean, that's such an interesting.
That's so true. I mean, that's just absolutely, it sounds like something my mom would say. Probably has said. Yeah,
it is. It did feel like that's something my mom would have said. Like that it is this movie is it is very real. Like there is so much stuff that feels like super realistically the concerns of the people in those positions, and I think that like there's because the mom is in some ways a caricature, especially at the beginning, of an overprotective mother. But I feel like her concerns are genuinely
Oh, sure, absolutely.
able parent concerns.
Yeah. Which is why it was so wonderful and pleasant to see her character arc, because she completely, I mean, obviously we're going to spoil this movie, but she completely does a 180 at the end of the movie.
Which is, like, it's interesting, and I wonder if, to kind of pinpoint exactly what, because there's, I think, like, the movie kind of says that Jill's monologue during that, at the end of the car scene about Donnie. That's right?
Yeah, Donnie.
Okay, or
yeah.
Dawn.
Dawn.
That is one of my uncle's names, and I'm gonna remember.
There you go. Yeah.
I got a mnemonic. But like he, no, I lost. Right. So Jill gives a monologue about like the relationship that the mom has with Dawn, and the kind of like saying that she is being. She's not like seeing him, I guess, is kind of the gist of that monologue.
Yeah, she says something along the lines of you're seeing with your eyes closed,
right?
And he sees with his eyes open,
which is funny, little reversal.
which absolutely like blindsides the mom,
right? Because
you
can tell like in that moment the kind of realization of what she's doing, and like how it's interesting because I thought about like why having it coming from Jill, I feel like part of it was just like this idea of kind of like seeing from a like external perspective, like, you know, kind of like having a third party coming in, and like, because I think when you kind of get deadlocked with someone, the assumptions about the person that you're deadlocked with become who they are, and that's kind of what the movie talks about, and instead of like the relation, like actually being observant of what the person
what they
is.
are what they are and what they are and what they could be
and what they've become. Also, I mean, especially with parents, that's a big thing.
Because his mom sees him as her baby, as the person that she made up these little children's books for.
Right, because have we talked about that yet?
No, Donnie Dark.
Donnie Dark.
Donnie Dark.
the children's books that the mom has been writing about, not about a fictional character that is,
but about her son who is blind.
Done,
but in the books, Donnie.
I know
I'm gonna do this the entire thing.
It's hard because we have two. The two movies.
Donnie flies airplanes. He does a bunch of other things. Plays
the
sports.
FBI gives him an award or something.
The president gives him an award or something. Yeah. So it's all of these really stupid stories about this blind kid who's just amazing and incredible, and
kind of a super crib narrative, but like to the extreme of like you couldn't, like half of them you're like, that literally, there's just no way. Yeah, like flying a plane, it's like it's not gonna happen.
Well, and he even I think Don says at one point, it brings up Superman, you're just making this Superman story for me, and we see at first it starts out as something that is annoying, and is a point of contention between Don and his mother, and in the end it almost becomes the point that unites them.
Right.
This not the character, but the stories.
That kind of like just having that.
She told those stories to him because he needed them at the time, and because she thinks she thinks he can do anything, and she thinks he should be able to do whatever he wants to do. It's just really, really hard for her to let go, because in order to do that, he has to make his own mistakes and he has to fail. It
is interesting because there is like, having written those, there's this kind of tension from the beginning of like, if the message that she was trying to impart from day one was like, you're capable of doing anything, then there is kind of like, I don't know if this is like fully addressed, but there's an inherent tension in that, and that she is so overprotective. I think because, I don't know, I'm trying to remember if there's a thing.
I feel you can do anything you want as long as I'm there with you or somebody is watching you or overseeing you.
Yeah. Though I don't know if little Donnie Dark had that as part of his narrative. We don't know. We just know his catchphrase and the things that and the kind of ends of the books that Donnie like at one point, or Dawn at one point, lists off, which we were quoting with the planes. Right. But we don't really know that many more narrative things. But the catchphrase of Little Donnie Dark is, no one is more blind than those who choose not to see. Is that what it is?
Yeah. No one is more blind than those who choose not to see.
Yeah. So if it's not the exact wording, basically what it is.
You might as well just put a neon sign under that and like, oh, that's the theme of the story.
Yeah. Yeah, it is the arc of the two characters.
Yeah. Donnie's mom.
Dawn also.
Dawn. Yes, thank you.
Dawn, dawning sun, like the dawn.
Perfect.
Like the night is always darkest before the dawn, yes. Except for it's not true, but
yeah, it's about how people see each other.
Right, and kind of like the perceptions of a blind person, or like a sighted perspective of what a blind person is capable of, because both of them are kind of about capability, and like that it kind of, I guess the moral is like you're limited by your perceptual holdups, or like kind of the holdups that happen cognitively more than you are in like the like not getting as much perception. It's a very scientific way of saying that, so I don't really know if that's the best way to say that. But like you basically that you are limited more by like preconceptions, I guess, than like actually just not having vision, which is true. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not a bad moral. It's better than the ones where it's like, blindness will make you kill people.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah, no. Yeah, I would take this over the film Blindness thousands and thousands of times over.
Yeah, no, this is definitely one of the better morals of the story. Because I think it is a important thing to remember, that like what you are capable of perceiving is kind of independent from your ability to even just understand the world, like that those two things are not necessarily connected. Like you can understand the world very well with less perception, and you can really not understand the world with like a lot of perception. Sometimes having more vision makes you more dumb about the world because you trust your vision too much, which is my idea about that. But
there you go. Yeah. Well, and at one point he explains to Jill about shadow vision.
Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting, because I was like, oh, you mean spatial awareness?
Right.
Which is basically what you're talking about, but I guess they had to give it a cool name or something. But
yeah,
but he talks about having shadow vision, being able to perceive objects in space, even though he can't see them. Because if you're in a room and you close your eyes, sound waves bounce off of things.
Yeah, and also just if you know a place, you can have it memorized,
right,
too.
You can feel the presence of a dresser without having to see it, because it takes up space. If you're walking, it's like when you're walking down the street and you walk past a line of cars that are parked on the side of the road. The air, the sounds sound different because you know the cars are there.
Yeah.
You can feel the space that they take up. I don't know. That's I am someone who has sensory perception, so that's the best way I can explain it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's...
Or spatial awareness,
Spatial awareness. Yeah, and it's something that I was trying to fully get, because having the kind of vision I have is all spatial awareness. Like, my vision is just basically meant for spatial awareness, and that's its number one function. Like, its only function, basically. So for me, I was like, I just have, like, you know, like, main vein, like, spatial awareness from vision, so I couldn't fully even wrap my head around it in a weird way, because, like, that is what I use my vision for pretty much exclusively, is spatial awareness. But yeah, I think that just, like, the idea that it's kind of an extrasensory thing, and they even make the joke that I always made about having a blind fifth sense, which is going off the incorrect notion that you only have five senses. Right.
Well, yeah, and they have the whole discussion about how his senses are heightened. Not superhuman heightened, but heightened.
Realistically.
Realistically heightened.
Because a lot of the way he explains blindness is very real stuff. Because he talks about knowing the space, as we were saying before. He talks about being able to read Braille and like even like memorizing things too is another, I think, blind related, like even just with reading things or other kinds of memorizing, and counting steps to find places. I loved that he knew where. He was like, oh, there's a laundromat that's 40 steps down from the apartment, which is something that I've told so many sighted people, like, where something is, because I'm like, I need to know where this is. Whereas you just might just be, like, not paying attention because she doesn't realize.
Yeah, and because she doesn't know. She's like, what? I've never seen that before. And it's like, yeah, no, I'll prove it to you. There you go, 40, you know, and then I can get to the delicatessen and just, to know... to know your neighborhood, to have everything laid out, in your head. I mean,
which is such a blind person thing. Mm-hmm. I always, blind people are the people I know, the only people I know where you go to a blind person's house and literally within like a half-mile radius, all the businesses know this person. Like, and it's true where I live, and then it's also true anytime I visit a blind friend that you have a relationship with every barista in that like half a mile radius, like that everyone knows who you are because you just are very like hyper local, you know.
I grew up in subdivisions and neighborhoods, so we really weren't super duper close to any major retailing businesses. Now we were close to the movie theater. That was the closest thing to us. Was the movie theater.
Yeah, I grew up where you couldn't go. I just didn't have a life because I had to depend on everyone else to drive me because there was nothing in walking distance.
Oh yeah, no, but basically, yeah. And then when I moved to Fairbanks, it was a little more like Dawn's situation in that I lived on campus, so I just knew the campus and I knew where everything was.
Right.
And it's a small campus, so obviously everybody knows everybody else. But yeah, and everybody knew me because I was the kid with the cane.
Yeah, which that makes it a weird dynamic too. But he has a cane in this movie.
He does, and he does use it briefly because him and Jill just fall so hard for each other in like that he trusts her enough to sight guide him to the store.
Do you think it was because of their relationship? Because I was kind of like, I was worried for him because I was like, she's so ditzy.
Of course. No, totally. No. And I'm like, how many blind people has she sight guided? But if you think about sight guiding and touch in general, it is an incredibly intimate act. It can be an incredibly intimate act. And it is a bond between a blind person and a sighted person because you are literally, he even says something about her being his cane. You are literally that person's cane. That's why I don't ever want to sight guide anybody because I don't trust myself enough.
Yeah, I would not either.
Yeah, no, I'm the one who's going to be sight guided.
Right. But it is like, and yeah, it is. I feel like if you don't, like, if you have a cane, you might still, at a time where sight guiding, weirdly enough, I feel like you see less sight guiding. I know, like, my grandfather, like, he didn't even have a cane. He just used, my grandmother would sight guide him. But I think there's also, like, to some extent, though, I think it can be an intimate thing. I think that's also, like, a functional thing.
Right, I guess.
Too, and it doesn't necessarily have to be.
Yeah, no, I guess I should have changed my statement. Intimate in the fact that it's a plot device in this story.
It's a trust thing. I think is maybe more what you mean.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, it's a trust thing. We are watching these characters learn to completely trust each other.
And it's interesting because I definitely read that as, like, he doesn't think through who he has to sight guide him. It's just if he's hanging out with someone, he'll make them sight guide him. Because that's how I read it. I was like, okay, well, he's very ditzy, so he must just, like, always do that. He must always be like, oh, you're walking with me, I'll sight guide me. You know, like, but I don't know.
Whereas, you know, I'm not sure, because he tells his mom about all these parties and friends that he has, and clearly he doesn't go to parties and he has no friends except for maybe the few musician people that he hangs out with. So I don't think he gets sight guided a lot. He is proving, or he feels like he has to prove that he is independent. So I'm not saying that he lets her sight guide him because he's lazy, but it is a way to get the two characters to trust each other.
Right. I think that, like, I just say that because he does also have a cane, so, like, in my imagination, that he would just, when he's with another person, he would do sight guiding, and then he would be able to maintain independence by also having a cane. So, like, then, because she's like, why aren't you bringing your cane? So it is something that it felt like kind of he had a routine kind of, like, you know how when you need to, like, because I'll always use my cane for everything, because if I stopped using it if I left the house sometimes without it, I just would never use it. And I feel like that's true of a lot of the blind people I know, is they either always use it or never use it, because it's very hard to, like, so I feel like how I read it was that he just was like, okay, I will always use my cane alone, and I will always get sight guided when someone's with me, because it was just like he didn't think about it or anything. It was just like, oh no, you're with me, right? You're coming with me, so you'll just sight guide me.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
you're here. Yeah. And I guess coming with me, like, even though I'm, you know, I might walk with friends or whatnot, but I will usually use my cane and won't get sight guided by anybody. I sight guide, or I request, or sometimes because my friends know me, they will offer. And usually if someone offers, I will take it, because I don't get to do it very often, and most of the time I can put my cane away. But usually I will ask if it is a place I don't know that's super crowded, like going to a convention or something, or if I don't have any night vision. So if I really can't see in the dark, I'll ask for help.
Though the problem with then is, like, I always worry about cracks in the road, because I don't.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder to realize that.
Well, and I mean, Goldie Hawn did pretty good.
Yeah, I was so surprised.
She didn't let him crash into any walls.
Yeah, I was
or fall up the stairs.
For him, just like, because she was very, like, the fact that she could not even, that she was like, oh God, you're blind. And, like, she kept, because we didn't even fully finish that whole scene, but she, like, keeps being like, see that, like, she keeps saying see in a sentence.
I went over to see my friends, or I'll see you later, or what do you think I look like, or, you know, and just every single time she falls apart.
She was like, oh, I'm so, well, it wasn't even like, what do you think like, like a rtorical question. Right. And because some of them, it is like, she's just forgetting that he can't see, and then other times it literally is just like a turn of, like, the seeing her friends. It's like, that's literally has nothing to do with him.
No.
It's not even making any sense.
Yeah, but that is, but that is a reflection.
But it's really funny.
It is really funny, and it's a reflection of a real person. I mean, I've had people do that around me, and I love that he says, you can, because no one wants to call him blind, and he's like, you can say blind. It is a part of my vocabulary. You can say it.
And I like that he also says, like, that she's like, oh, that's so sad, and he does the monologue that I always do, which is, I was born like this, and so I have no concept of the world being any different. There's no reason to be sad for me. This is just how my world is, and there's like, and that was very nice to have someone remind the flighty character that's if that's your reality, it's not really that big a deal. But yeah, so that's that scene. We get to when they go to the thrift store, kind of like we have this. Yeah, this is what you were saying before, the very San Francisco-y scene.
Right. They're trying all. She's getting him to try on all these really cool 70s clothes. Oh my God, that barrel of hats. Oh,
So many
are
hats.
you kidding? I would have stolen all of those hats. And then the hat that he gets to wear. Hello.
It's
yes,
pretty
it is such a great
awesome
hat.
Yeah. So it's like she's giving him all these different things to try on, and the store clerk, I think, knows her.
Yeah.
And he is like helping them find clothes, and then
He keeps offering Don a mirror.
yeah. And what he offers him a mirror, and then he's like, "Oh, it looks good," like like, which is something I've done so many times.
Oh my God, all the time.
Do it all the time.
Yeah. Someone will be like, "Oh, can you? Hey, look at what's going on over there." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, okay, whatever." It looks good.
It's I do that. So because it's just like, and it's so funny because he does it to just be like, okay, like, let's move on. And then it happens a second time where he's like, now look at this, how does this look in the mirror? And then at this point, Don is facing in the wrong direction, and so he does oh, it looks good, but is not looking at all at the mirror. And so that's when the clerk finds out because he doesn't.
Because Jill comes up and saves the situation. And she's like, he's blind.
Well, I think I think it's the clerk who says, like, is he blind?
Oh,
and
yeah.
then
Yes, he
Don
does.
is like, he is, and he can hear you.
Yep. And then the clerk freaks out. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah, and then he can't handle it. Which is, oh God, it is funny, and it is so real. Like, because it's just it seems like so over the top. Well, but then it also feels
because he's
not even that over the top.
Yeah, because the clerk is apologizing profusely. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I'm so sorry. And it's like, it's fine. It's a misunderstanding. It happens all the time. It probably happens to Don all of the time. So,
right, and that's what I kind of like about his character. He is very just like,
whatever.
Yeah, and
I'm
he's
blind. I am what I am.
And like the ability to calmly, like, because he's kind of like asked to educate. It's like the whole thing that people talk about, like,
yes.
you're constantly needing to educate, like,
it's our
abled people.
Yeah, it's our job. If an able person stops us on the street and asks about you or your disability or whatever, it's your job as a disabled person to educate them.
Right.
And to that I say, fuck that.
Yeah. But then it's also like a lot of situations where you don't have an option. You're like, I'm just here.
If you catch me on a good day, or you are a little kid, or basically not an adult. If you're not an adult and not a complete asshole, I'll talk to you.
So after they go to the clothing store, they like get this whole outfit for him that he buys. Mm-hmm. And doesn't he get like a free hat?
Oh, does he get the hat for free? I mean, yeah, I think
some of
so.
it's for free.
The hat, yeah. Oh, yeah, because it looks so good at him. The clerk is like, I can keep it.
Yeah,
it's on the house or something. Yeah,
because he's like, oh.
Yeah, probably, most likely.
Yeah, and he also and then the Dawn asks, like, do you have any what is
dirty books.
Dirty books.
He wants dirty magazines. Yeah. Do you have any dirty magazines?
The only ones that don't come in Braille, which apparently is a quote from the actual person.
Really? Oh, that's cool.
Which I think
that's
is very
super
funny.
cool.
Wonder if they've gotten better now about that.
Yeah, there is audio porn.
Yeah,
it's
audio,
terrible,
definitely.
but it exists.
Yeah,
it's what I heard is it was government it was sanctioned. Like it has to be made. You have it has to. The blind
Which
people.
government?
Our government? I don't know. I don't know. But it's terrible, and if you're blind and want it, it's a resource for you.
Yeah, I mean it's important, but
honestly, you could just
the government. I don't think our government does that. It doesn't see,
probably
given
not.
all of its positions on sex and disability.
Yeah,
I would
no,
be
probably
very
not.
surprised.
Honestly, I think you'd have better luck just listening to a really steamy audiobook, but
Yeah,
whatever. It's like I said, it's there if you want it. It's read by the most boring person, though.
I
mean, it's just
lame.
awful.
Yeah, that's a real service that needs to exist a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so then they go to they go back, and since their apartments are like connected by a locked door, they like figure out a way to unlock the door.
Yeah, he does, because he can hear the mechanisms in the lock.
Right, yeah.
Which is cute. I have never been able to do that, but it's cute.
But it does feel like anytime I like work on things, it feels like so much of it's touching stuff, and like
And
that's a
listening.
big part.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's very, when it is tactile, and yeah, there's just a lot of sensory information that you can get from that. So that made sense to me. But then it's funny. It's hard to remember the exact chronology just because it all takes place in one setting. So a lot of times, like different settings helps you think about the chronology.
And each scene is so long.
Yeah.
And so many different things happen. But so they unlock the door, and this is when they're having a picnic, because he was going to take her to the beach, but it's raining. So
he's like jokes, because it's already pouring when he's like, oh, well, we could go to the beach. And she's like, what?
And then Jill, being flighty and bohemian, is like, let's have a picnic on the floor. Right. Yeah, which is, I mean, okay, it's cute.
It's cute, and I like that he also like has to learn exactly where the picnic is.
Oh, right. She has to direct him so that he doesn't step on the picnic.
Right, which is I thought that was very cute, because it's like they have to keep coming back to that he learns exactly where the picnic is, because it is one of those things where the comedy is in like the extra preparation of needing to do the counting the steps, and like, because I feel like in a not as tactful and more shitty portrayal you would have, like the comedy is that it's on the floor, and so he's just gonna trip over things,
right,
or like she doesn't say that it's on the floor, so he just falls, and then so funny, he can't see. But like here it was just they kind of like work as a team, but it's funny in that something that would be very easy for a sighted person to do, it like just takes a lot more steps, but there's like it's in a celebratory way, like it's just like kind of a cute thing, because it's kind of like courtship stuff in a way, of just like it is like a very kind of part of the flirtiness of their relationship. I don't know. I thought that is a nice way of using blindness to, instead of just ignoring, obviously not ignoring it, and really creating situations that are slightly harder for a blind person to navigate, but then also still making it not feel oppressive and feel more like just kind of like a fun thing that even just like a sighted partner can be a part of, in a way that's community building.
Not a disabled person and an able-bodied person can be in a loving, supportive relationship, just like a disabled person, or an able-bodied person, an able-bodied person.
Yeah,
you have to navigate things different, some things differently, but
right.
Those relationships happen, and everyone has a right to find happiness and love.
Well, and I like that it's kind of like, it's like if you are dating someone who's like very tall or very short, like it's just something where it's like you're just navigating it. It doesn't have to be like you're a different type of person that needs to view relationships differently, which I think sometimes it's, when it's problematic, kind of feels that way, of like, well, disabled people are people who you shouldn't be having relationships with, or like they're just like a different species of human, so it's inappropriate to have relations with them. Yeah,
they're too different or too fragile, or well, okay, in some cases,
they can be incredibly fragile. But your lives are just too different, and you'll never find anything to relate. You'll never be able to relate to each other on anything.
And that's kind of like something that the movie sort of explores in some ways, that like I mean, we talked already about the thing that the mom says about how you haven't seen him when he's in an unfamiliar place. And I think that there's kind of other things with Jill trying to, I mean, both at the beginning when she's like surprised that he's blind and is doing all this stuff and freaking out about that. But then I feel like she kind of, her arc, is figuring out how capable he is. But even in the car, I feel like there's a little bit of, I don't know, it's interesting because I feel like she still kind of has a sense of like, I think that sense of surprise, which I mean, I guess we do see that is like definitely part of her character, and we have seen that like that's already been very much demonstrated that she's so surprised by it. So, but I feel like when she talks to his mom about it, she's like, it's amazing that he is able to do all this stuff. And there is kind of a little bit of like a othering almost, I don't know. Like, because I guess at the beginning it's like, it is othering, but for like comedic effect, and also like this is someone who might have like had all these misconceptions that were in her head, and then are, she's now trying to like, now they're all just coming out at the very beginning, but then by the time the car scene happens, she's theoretically has like, her arc is much more, and she has a much better sense of him. But it still felt like sort of othering. I don't know. Do you remember kind of like her whole monologue?
I mean, in the case of othering, I guess I can't say every mother. In the case of othering, disabled parents are kind of already doing that to their children. I mean, if you are disabled in this world and you are born, you are automatically, there's a sticker on your back that says othered.
Yeah.
Because you are the other, you are on the outside. But it's about learning to adapt and accept. And as a person grows up and matures and changes, and it's about learning to accept them for the way they are and letting them go, and letting them be free. I mean, and the butterfly in a symbolic sense is a symbol about transformation. You start
transformation of butterflies.
Yeah, you start as one thing and you end as another. And in the film and in the play, the characters all start as one thing and they end up as another.
Though technically any story should probably be doing that.
Well, yeah, okay, yes. Yeah, no, you're correct. You're correct about that. But I mean, Jill and Dawn fall in love, or I would say a very, very heavy like. I mean, so
it is like a one day. Do you know that like reality show everyone was obsessed with for a second, Love Is Blind?
Oh, fuck that. I got through 2 episodes of that and I was like, this is not for me. I'm not a reality show person. Well,
I mean, I'm not either.
I'm a reality show person, but I enjoy competition. Like, I want to see a bunch of people who are good at what they're doing compete at something.
I'm the other way around. I don't really like reality shows, but I'm like, well, it's gotta be really stupid, because they're all stupid. So at least I want ones that lean into how bad it is.
Well, then apparently you should watch this other one called Too Hot to Handle.
I've heard about, but the Love Is Blind one was, what was my point with that? Do you feel like you get quarantine like aphasia? Is that the right word? You can't remember things, like your brain is just like.
I can't remember things in general, but I think the quarantine is making it worse.
Yeah, I can, and I feel like I'm really losing my ability to these days. But the butterflies are free. People change. Love is blind.
Oh Lord,
who knows?
She doesn't. I don't think Jill falls for Dawn because he's a blind person.
Oh, okay. This is what I remembered.
Okay.
I remember this. It's because they spend one day together.
Yes. So
That was the thing. That was the comment I was
That's
gonna
the
make.
thing. Okay. That's the thing that kind of sticks out to me is like they spend one day together and I thought that they were both head over heels for each other. Turns out he is head over heels for her, and Jill likes him a lot, but is
Like 70s free love.
very, very free, and we come to find out terrified of commitment.
She's, I mean, then also felt like a real person, and I've known many of those people.
Well, yeah, and I mean, and some people can have a one-night stand and be good and whatever, move on, and some people equate a lot of emotion and emotional intimacy with sex, with being with somebody.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also just like, I think there are people who are genuinely afraid of commitment. And I think, because I think that like, the monologue that Dawn has at the end about her.
He calls her emotionally stunted.
Well, yeah, well, he uses the R word, the slur, so that,
I was like, oh, we're in the 70s.
it is definitely, and I mean, granted, like, it is something that would have been different. Like, it just doesn't, it is different then that it just completely means something different, really, in that, like, that would have been something that wouldn't seem, like, offensive, because words
But
change.
I also felt like he was being a wee bit petulant.
Oh,
because
yeah.
he had fallen for her head over heels, is willing to live with her, to do whatever, and she didn't see it that way, and he was kind of throwing a temper tantrum.
Yeah, it's hard, because I think that is true, definitely, and so some of that felt wrong to me, but at the same time I very much related to him because she was just sabotaging the relationship, and it wasn't, and it was definitely someone who was afraid of commitment, and like and I have to admit, I have had many situations where I get very, very mad because I'm like, you like this person, or like just yeah.
And I definitely I definitely cannot. I'm not coming from a place of understanding as far as that stuff goes. So,
as far as like her fear of commitment, or
well, and as far as relationships in general in the real world.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that it's definitely a real thing that people will kind of sabotage a relationship, or just like if they feel like a relationship is getting like close, they will just run away, and that's something that seems to happen so often.
Oh yeah,
that it is surprising to me.
Yeah, I mean, because everybody has baggage, everybody has their own deal.
And I think also, like, disabled people, I don't know, I think there's also, like, that triggers the commitment fear for a lot of people, like, this sense of, like, if you already are, like, I don't know who I want to be with, then,
Because,
like, someone who's disabled, it's, like, then it's, like, a choice, you're making a choice, you know?
Honestly, I think it's because you're already in a committed relationship with your parents. For the most
disabled
part.
people?
Yeah, a disabled person is. And you've lived your entire life, and again, I can't speak for all disabled people, but you've lived your entire life with these people hovering over and making sure all of your needs are met, and making sure you're protected, and that nothing bad ever happens to you, and they build you up, you know, and they are never going to leave you, and then a lot of people, I mean, I'm in my experience, finally getting out of my parents' house and being in the real world. Oh my God, it was a bit of a slap to the face. Like, I made so many mistakes. I'm still making mistakes.
Yeah.
And yeah, being out of that relationship and in the real world is completely different. And you might, because you've lost that tether to this committed relationship that you had, you might fall in love with the first person who gives you the time of day.
Right.
I've definitely felt, I can't say I've fallen in love with anybody, but, you know, I definitely have attached myself to people who cared, or who just, you know, gave me listened to me, gave me the light of day. And Jill, because we know that Dawn has been with Linda, but after Linda, who broke his heart, Jill is the first person to come along to treat him like a human being.
Yeah. And that, I think, yeah, I mean, I think that there's some the parent, like overprotective parents is definitely, and also I think in this movie it's definitely kind of a big part of the problem that he's experiencing. But I think that also society, like, as having parents who were able to be a little bit more free. I think that my sister, they were more, because she needed more things, and I was like, no, I'm independent. Fuck everyone. Like, from, like, 8, 5, maybe 10 and on. Like, I was just like, yep, I am going to do my thing. And that helped me a lot to, like, fuck up a lot, and that's how you raise a child, just so everyone knows. Another PSA: that's how you raise a child. Let them fuck up.
I mean, sure. I mean, I did my fair share of fucking up when I was a kid. When I was a kid and when I was a teenager, but I very rarely ever went against the grain, or
maybe that's just if you're like a rebel child.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, well, until I left and went to college. And I got out of the house, and then everything kind of sort of changed.
Yeah.
And now I disagree with my parents a lot. I will speak up. I will. I'll make choices that they don't necessarily approve of. I mean, nothing that has put my life in danger, but
right. I mean, I think that like that's always a coming of age. I think that's something that all able people deal. And I think there's also, a lot of parents with able children that do not prepare their children for the world. And in some ways disabled people have at least a little bit more built in, because we're just gonna experience a lot more stuff going on, like that's challenging, no matter, like, you just can't be protected from most of it.
Right.
Right. So I think that in a way makes us more resilient. I think it definitely makes us more resilient as just on average.
Yeah, it makes us more resilient, but in another way it also makes us super vulnerable.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially,
and so it kind of cancels itself out.
Yeah, it kind of does. Yeah, especially if you are willing to trust the first person that shows you affection or treats you
right. Because I mean, I think
like
that's
a person.
That's the problem with just being part of a marginalized group, but and marginalized, like oppressed, is probably more the kind of thing, because it's just like you're just more vulnerable.
Well, so all of that being said, Dawn's mother shows up a day after Dawn and Jill have slept together.
Yes, and the mom was like, I'm gonna be there in 2 weeks, I think.
A month. They had a deal. He had 2 months where she couldn't
take him home.
Yep.
Because she's the whole time like, I'm going to take you back. Mm-hmm. She doesn't want him to be there. She's mad at Linda for putting all these weird ideas in his head.
Right. But he's like, give me 2 months and I can show you. I'll prove it to you in 2 months. So Jill and Dawn have their night together, and the next morning, Dawn's mom shows up.
Yeah. Surprising him, but it is very funny because she's silent at the time. Jill's got her underwear again.
Right.
Is just wearing underwear, and then she like silently opens the door. I think the mom, or maybe the door's already open.
She was very quiet. I don't think it was silent, but she was very quiet.
But like to the point that as the audience we're supposed to be like, oh, he doesn't know his mom's there.
Yeah.
But then he's like, hi, mom.
Yeah.
Because he can smell her perfume.
Yes, because he can smell her perfume. And all of this after, like, him and Jill gave him hippie love beads and styled his hair differently.
Oh, yeah.
It's a cute little scene.
It's cute. And then she's, like, very mad about, this did feel super play, like a play, and that like because they're constantly, the characters are leaving. Like she comes in and then there's a lot of like people leaving and coming through.
Okay, so good. You noticed that too. Yeah, this movie has blocking, so much blocking, because it's literally like they went to a theater and filmed these scenes inside of his apartment. I mean, if the set is on a soundstage, that's a real good soundstage, because the outside looks incredibly convincing.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. But I've seen theater shows that you can do a set so intricate and make it look like you can see out the windows for miles.
Yeah, it looked like a soundstage to me.
Okay, and it probably was. It just, I guess, I just fooled me. Anyway,
That's okay.
So-
I've got the film eye. You got the play eye.
Yeah, but I'm really I was gonna ask you about that, and then I was like, I don't know, because like you might not have heard the term blocking before, but
Are you kidding me? I grew up with a mom who's a
know.
director of
I
plays.
know.
I don't think I was 5 years old. Like that I don't remember ever not knowing what that means.
good. Well, well, I'm glad you noticed, because I definitely noticed. Yes, they'll be sitting down and having a conversation, and then someone will get up, usually him or her, and they will go to another part of the room, or he touches a lot of things. He'll touch his bed, or he'll go and touch a wall. I think that's habit for him, like when he gets nervous, which is nice to see, because again, it felt real. It felt very natural.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, this movie has a lot of blocking, a lot of sit up, get down, up, down, up, down, up, down, walk across the room, turn around. Not so much that it felt crazy distracting, but there were definitely spots
because
where
it
I'm
also
like,
is like so specific to the plot too, because you have to like have because you have one blind character, like, and so their movement needs to be really specific, and any change in the setting is going to be really relevant, like, which is something we talk about a lot on this podcast. And then you have other characters who, like, you have Jill and the mom, who have like two very different agendas, like, coming into that scene. Like, they're basically completely at odds with each other, because at this point Jill knows that the mom is very overprotective and kind of is already like is kind of against her, just based on like the fact that she's preventing Dawn from having independence, and then the mom is just instantly like, you like this Goldie wearing no clothes, like, you know, this, she's very flighty, and like, and you know, is kind of still in some ways like, oh, he can't, you know, it's so weird that he's blind, you know, like, she still has that weird, like, kind of ableist things that can kind of show. And so I think for the mom, whose ableist things are very different kind of ableist things, where she's like maybe overprotective, but at least is not like feeling like she's not surprised by it, obviously, but you know, they had to have very different conceptions of the blindness thing. And so, and there's also like a class difference, and the fact that like she the mom is very judgmental of Jill and her relationships, like and even her mom's relationships,
Well,
which is kind of
she
silly
sees-
to judge her mom.
yeah, she sees Jill as not good enough for her son, basically, because Jill's has this sordid past, and you know,
And I feel like you see at the beginning, like, it feels very mean-spirited with the mom, but then like later on, it feels, it kind of like, you kind of get, it turns a corner, and you're like, oh, like, she cares, this is coming from an actual place of love, in a way that like she really just she does not want him to get hurt, and that is actually more of the motive than anything else. And like, because it feels so just like, you know, kind of unempathetic and cold at the beginning. And I did like that you kind of turn a corner and you really see, oh, this is not coming from a place of just being like, oh, you know, fuck you, hippie girl. It's really coming from a place of like, I don't want to see my son like depend on someone who's not going to be there for him.
Exactly. Who's just going to leave.
Right.
And
which is like a real, I mean, that feels like a good
totally.
concern to have, you know.
I love it when a play makes me hate or be really feel off-putting, have a feeling of being off-put by a character, and then by the end of the play you're in that character's corner, or you might not like that character, but you understand why they are the way they are, and why the motivations are the way they are. And
it comes from like a place of just feeling very like that their agenda comes from a genuine place where you can maybe relate entirely to what they care about, but maybe not what the conclusions they come to are. Like, I really like that too. I like that in real life too.
Well, and the play How I Learned to Drive is a really great example of that.
Does that have a blind character? It's probably not.
No, unfortunately. No, not a blind character. It has a pedophile, though.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and you obviously you don't come to love the pedophile by the end of the play. You never could. But you come to understand him a little bit better, which is really interesting. And that's not something I thought I would feel at all at the end of that play. Anyway, but yeah, that's easily found if you ever want to read that, How I Learned to Drive. But this play, seriously, I'm gonna buy a copy of this and read it because I'm very, 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 very curious. Also, I would love to play Dawn.
I know, I thought that too.
Yep, I would. And like, just you could either gender swap Jill for James.
Or
I'd prefer to play it with just Dawn and Jill.
Yeah.
Donna and Jill. I mean, it's very easy.
I would just, I mean, yeah, I would just be a guy because that feels more natural to me.
I mean, I've played men before. I could totally play it as a man, but I would personally, if I had my say, I'd rather play it as a woman.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's entirely gender identity, which I'm not going to tell you what your gender identity is, and we fucked up.
Yeah, but no, it's, I get that. But yeah, this is definitely on one of my parts I'd like to play lists.
Yeah, no, I thought about that too, definitely, because I think you just never see blind characters that have a lot of confidence, are able to talk about their blindness in a very frank way, and like also just because I think that's something I do, and I think I've had so many people in my life be really shocked by how matter of fact I can be about stuff and just be like, this is it, this is what's going on, like this is, and like, you know, maintaining that sense of like kind of putting the weirdness onto the other person as opposed to needing to absorb it into my identity. And I think that like is so nice to see because you just don't see blind characters that are written that way, because there is always a lot of like that, you know, the shadow of a sighted person kind of on the character, and that there's so much projection of like what a blind person would want, or like how we think, or that we just spend any time thinking about being sighted. You know, like when everything that he's thinking about is just it's just the normal stuff of like love and, you know, parent relationship, you know, things that all of us have to deal with. And then on top of that, like just kind of how you're interacting with the world, but it's just not thinking about how other people interact with the world, you know, because he has to count steps, and like that's, you know, that's taking up too much cognitive energy to like bother worrying about what a sighted person, how their experience is, which I feel like so many blind characters are just like, what would it be like to see you, you know?
Yeah, no, I mean, Dawn never wants vision, even though Jill is like, oh, don't you wish you could, I wish you could see. And she's just like, I don't need to. It's fine. It's fine that I don't. I can function in this world. It's fine.
And then he also has to deal with an overprotective mom, and then kind of like, and you know, instead of totally internalizing that, which I feel like can be very easy to do when you feel like it's like, oh, I can't handle things, because like, and he does a monologue about like, I can't do this job, and like he says, I can't be a delivery person, I can't be a photographer, I can't be like, you know, and he does the thing that I've been to do before where it's like, yeah, I'm a very capable person, but here's all the ways in which I'm not going to be able to get hired doing something. And I think that like the fact that even though he's very like frank about that aspect of it, he still doesn't internalize it as his value either, which is and I don't know, maybe the Reagan era really made this worse when we went into just a more horrible capitalism kind of vibe, and so maybe it is just like it was actually better in the 70s to not be able to work, so that could be part of it, but I think like capitalism just tells you your worth, at least at this point in our country's history.
Your worth is equated to how much you make. How much money do you bring in? Right.
And if you can't get a job, or if you can only get very low wage jobs, then that just makes you less valuable in the eyes of the kind of, you know, and society, powers that be.
And people just assume that you're not happy in your work, or you're not happy with your life. And although I can't say everyone is happy, I think a lot of people, you do what you love.
Yeah, and I mean, and then it's also just so arbitrary what you get paid to do.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, I loved all of that stuff with him, and just how the characters, I mean, really, he learned a lesson. He learned like to kind of, what did he learn actually?
I know. I was like, hang on.
I feel like
did
he did, but did he?
Did he? He learned. If he learned anything, I suppose he learned to be resilient.
Yeah.
And don't give up just because you fail and you fail again. You're going to fail multiple times.
Right.
But you have to keep going. Now, granted, his mother helped him come to that conclusion. And that lesson didn't help when Jill comes running back to him. Which I was a bit kind of like, I don't know. I was like, if this were a European film, she'd have been gone and you'd never see her again. But because this is an American film,
she comes back.
She comes running back.
Yeah, it's hard because it's...
Which I'm glad, because, oh my God, the other guy was a sleaze bag.
Because that's something we haven't fully... Yeah, I guess we haven't talked about him in a long time.
So Jill is an actress, and there's an audition she's going on in the film. And she's going to audition for this play done by this avant-garde theater company or something. The Cosmic Project, I think, is what they call themselves.
Definitely Cosmic something.
Anyway.
But
Yeah. So meanwhile, she has planned on having dinner with Dawn at the apartment.
And they have a bet that the mom will say.
Right. Yeah, and that's why they're having dinner, is because Jill wins the bet. Because the mom finds Dawn's bathtub under the table and wants to cry.
And she says, if I lived
here, I would cry.
Yeah, which was something that Dawn was like, she's going to say this at some point.
Yeah, it was so cute. So they decide to have dinner at their apartment. And...
At 7.
At 7:30, anyway.
And so she doesn't show up, basically.
Right. We cut to 10:30 or what time it was.
Yeah, I think it was 10:30.
Yeah, and everything is laid out. They've got candles. They've got food.
And the mom's still there, even though she was supposed to be gone.
Mm-hmm. And Jill hasn't shown up. And so they're prostrating over why she could be so late or why she doesn't show up. So Jill walks in with Ralph, who is the director of this play, who comes off as just a total douche. Yeah, a total douche who just wants to control Jill. Well, not only that, the play that he's doing, she wasn't right for the wife's part, which is the part she wanted, but he made her a secretary. And in the play, the secretary gets naked. And so he auditioned all of these women.
He's so smarmy.
He's so gross. And he auditioned all of these women, and they all had to get naked for him. And of course, we're watching this in the age of Me Too. So it's just like, oh no, mirror, bad, awful person alert. And, the mom obviously can see right through him. And Dawn...
And so could Dawn.
So could Dawn, yes.
But he also would have theoretically ulterior motives to be mad about him, even if he wasn't a douchebag.
Yeah. So Dawn just is kind of... shuts down, basically, which is a real reaction. I mean, if I were in this situation, I probably would have done the same thing. Yeah. So he just kind of shuts down. And... oh God, then Jill makes Dawn touch Ralph's face, which is so terrible because the first time him and Jill are intimate,
face touching.
There's so much well, no, that it's kind of cute though, because the first time they were intimate, funny. Parts of her are falling off. Like he touches her. Well, in this movie, it's called a fall, but basically it's a weave. But part of her wig comes off, and he freaks out. And then her fake eyelash comes off, and he freaks out.
It's like, how much of you is fake?
Yeah. But then, touching, and then they get intimate and whatever.
Well, no, the funny thing I remember is that she like just is like, this is my breast.
Oh, yeah. That's my breast. Yeah. And then I was like, oh, okay, I know where this is going. And yes, it went there.
But it was kind of fun because it does feel like, to me, I'm like, the face touching is so dumb, but I thought that was kind of funny, and then it's just like, it feels more like just an excuse to like touch someone. And so just the fact that she like did that, it just, I don't know, to me, I thought
that's what
funny.
It was. Yeah, that's what it was.
It's stupid.
It was an excuse for them to get to touch each other.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's just being very
And then
blatant.
and then she took that beautiful thing that they had and was like, here, touch this asshole's face. And, you know, of course, he doesn't want to. He does not want to do it. No. So Jill announces that she is moving out of her dingy apartment with Ralph to go live with him. And it was really nice what we had, but I should go. I just should go. And of course, Dawn is rightly so, is devastated by this.
It's completely
out of left
the
field.
blue. Yeah.
And so is his mom for the most part. And Dawn, in the reverse scene where we saw him with his mother, where she was angry and had suitcases and trying to force him out.
The roles are reversed.
The roles are reversed, and Dawn just decides, you know what? I'm done. Yeah. Obviously, I can't do it. No one will love me, and I'm done. And then this is when, I mean, the mom makes a complete 180, and although it seems like it comes from out of nowhere, it does make sense. Yeah.
I mean, all of the, because there is a lot of like very like fast like left turns in the like sharp left turns in the movie, but each one it feels very genuine to the characters. Like it does actually make sense given the characters things and like and the situation, like it's set up to make sense, but there are a lot of like when people change, it's real big.
So Dawn kind of flips out and decides that he's done.
Yeah,
he's done.
He wants to leave.
Yep, he might as well come back home with his mom, and he's had enough. And she was right.
Yeah,
he tells her that she was right, and that's when the mom has this beautiful, amazing epiphany, and says, "You can't come home. You have to stay. You have to keep going."
I feel like she kind of like knows that.
Yeah.
After meeting with Jill.
Yeah, I don't remember her exact words, but she tells him why she wrote the children's books.
Right, which is kind of like the dissonance between the cognitive dissonance that she has from the beginning of like she writes these ridiculous like stories, ridiculous in how much the blind person's able to achieve, but then she kind of holds back him in real life. I don't know exactly if it's stated, but I kind of felt like she had already decided she wanted him to stay.
Yeah, I think
after Jill.
Yes, I think during and after the Ralph situation.
Oh, because I was thinking before, like just before like when they're waiting for her.
Oh, okay. I didn't get that vibe. I definitely felt she was more in the "I told you so" vein. Like, this is another woman that is going to leave you and is going to do the same thing that Linda did, and I'll just wait this out, and you will come back to me, and then we'll go home, and everything will be okay.
Does she say that we'll wait it out and go? Because I feel like at that point she like is her wanting him to go home with her kind of turns into like just generally worrying about his happiness, but no longer thinking that he's better off.
Right.
But I don't know though.
Obviously she wants him to be happy, but the answer is not him coming back home. Well, and she hears his song. He's recorded the song that he wrote about Butterflies Are Free.
Yeah, which we haven't really talked about the song that much
yet. He in the movie after he meets Jill and they talk about the quote "Butterflies Are Free," he
has been working on a song.
He melts that into a song,
right?
And you hear little snippets of it throughout the movie, and then his mom happens to turn the radio on, I think just to break the horrible silence, or his tape recorder, and there's a recording of him playing the song, and she admits that it's really good. It's pretty good.
Yeah,
she says, yeah.
Because at first she's like upset because he's like, I just want to be a musician. Right. She's like, that's not going to pay the bills.
Right. And he's like, look, if it doesn't work out, I'll be a doctor. I'll be a lawyer. I'll go to I'll be a lawyer. I'll go to technology school. Lists off all these careers, that a blind person could totally do.
Well, the real guy was a lawyer and a musician. Yeah.
Oh, the similarities.
Yeah.
So, Yeah, so she hears the song and realizes that he has a gift and that he's very talented and at that moment very capable. And at that moment, he should be his own person. And even though he is struggling right now, this is life.
Right.
And he's not going to change or grow if he comes back home with her. And so they have a really sweet little scene about, after she makes him feel better, about getting dishes and drapes and sprucing up the apartment. And she says, I'll be back tomorrow and we'll talk about it. And she leaves. And then Dawn falls into an incredibly depressive episode. This was really sad. I mean, obviously. And very, very well acted. I mean, I believed it. I was heartbroken.
Yeah.
Because he was so upset.
Right. Well, breakups are really hard.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, he loses track of where he is in his own house, basically. Like this place that's supposed to be so safe.
Right.
You know, and he trips and falls.
Because there's like a few times where he gets disoriented during all of that because he's like unable to count, which I like that. I love that a lot as like kind of that being kind of illuminating how much cognitive work goes into blindness and how much your emotional state, like the cascading effects that has on your ability to function. And I really love that because that's so true. And I feel like everyone's perceptions are so like affected by emotions, but for disabled people, it's just, especially if you have a perception disability, like, you know, it just becomes pronounced in a way that you're just more aware of it. But I love that a lot as a way of like, it is kind of like filmic. I guess it's also play. I mean, it's something that they would both have in common because it's more of a performance thing.
Oh, yeah.
But like you know, that way of kind of materializing an inner struggle, which is something that like in filmmaking you're constantly like, how do we do this right? You know, how do we make this like the internal struggle external?
Yeah, whereas on a stage, and in the film it was very impactful, but on the stage I think it would be even more so because it is just you in a room with this man who is falling apart, and it's uncomfortable and it's devastating.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the beauty and the magic of theater. You, through his performance, you are going to feel things.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's very, it's very easy to relate to him. The whole movie. And then.
Yeah. But he doesn't have to feel things for too long.
Yeah.
Because.
Which, man, it is kind of like one of those things where it's like, I wish this was like real life, where people who have commitment issues like realize they have commitment issues and don't just go their entire life doing dumb shit.
Yeah.
Which has been my experience with people with commitment issues. Just I'm kind of maybe a little bit of an axe to grind. Sorry, guys.
But Jill basically has an epiphany, and she explains it by saying she experienced shadow vision.
Yeah, which that was cute.
It was cute. But
and that the thing in her way is Ralph.
Yeah, is Ralph. Yeah, I'm like, oh, thank God. Hallelujah. Girl, you are about to make a terrible, 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 terrible decision.
And I feel like she realizes this, and it's not even that he, like, does something specifically. Like, I think it's just him being him, but it's, like, that position of, like, kind of, because she comes up and he's like, have a sandwich before, and it's just the two of them,
right? And she clearly doesn't want to go, doesn't want to move out, didn't want to do any of these things, and he knows, he can sense it, and he's just like, why won't you admit it? Why won't you say, not even say you love me, but why won't you just say that you don't want to go with Ralph? You don't want to do this
like
thing
about Ralph, like
like why are we making this about Ralph when it's actually about her? And she is, again, it's all about being terrified of commitment. She's afraid to give up her freedom.
Yeah,
because and that's something he brings up too. You'll just be attached to me,
right? And that feeling that like you have that commitment is something
Well, that it'll be
that's so specific to.
Yeah, that it won't be a relationship with two equal parties who are in love. It will become a caretaking relationship
right.
where she's just
Which
here.
is the fear of all
know.
disabled people in relationships, like on the disabled side,
Mm-hmm.
like because no one wants that. No one anyone wants, because then there's a power dynamic that's bad.
Well, yeah, I mean, there are people that have excellent relationships with their caretakers, but they don't.
Well, like not like romantic relationships.
No,
just like
working
they just
relationships.
but that's
yeah.
a working relationship, and
Right.
it's like in the power dynamics, it's like dating a boss. Like that's not you're not actually, like that's just a fucked up thing. The boss is like the power is not okay in that
Right,
situation,
right.
and the same as like if a partner becomes more of a caretaker, and maybe later on in life when you're both. When someone's like becoming disabled at an older age, then it kind of mixes a little bit. But the more you're in a caretaker position, I mean, yeah, just the degrees of that. And I guess theoretically, women historically have had a lot less privilege too. And so in straight relationships with, a woman might feel, depending on the situation, like a woman might have less power, or it could be full on abusive, or
Right,
the
right.
or the in the hetero relationship, if a guy is using that power to control the woman, so there's all those dynamics, and I think, but with disabled people, that's a big concern, and I feel like that's like especially even just like in abusive relationships, like.
And maybe that's what Jill was afraid of, being tied down to someone, and Dawn felt the same, tying her down to him, and then neither of them were free. But if they truly love each other, then they are equal parts in this relationship, and that's what makes them free.
Right, and that it's not that just like being like that he's so capable in ways. I mean, granted, like having a disabled man and in a hetero relationship with a woman, then at least the power dynamics are a little more even. They can be sometimes, because you both have like less societal power in certain situations.
I suppose. I mean, I don't think the first thing I think about in a good healthy relationship is who has the power. I get where you're coming from.
I mean, a healthy relationship, no one should have the power. That's
Right.
kind of the idea.
Everyone is equal. Yeah.
Right. Coming from the side of, I think, working with survivors of domestic violence, that's where my brain goes. I'm kind of sadly directed in that angle when I think about this stuff. But like, it is, I think the societal dynamics of power can make it so that, like we were saying before, the vulnerability of someone in a relationship is, like, I think in a lot of male survivors, I feel like are disabled because it, like that, like, having that extra lack of societal power
Of autonomy.
Right, and that's like one of the few ways, and I feel like where, like, even in a hetero relationship, a man can be the one who's being abused if they're disabled. Like it's
Right.
This is not laws, but it's just like a
right.
trend that I've
Right.
noticed.
Well, when you have to rely on somebody for
Right.
something.
Right, which is like how women can be controlled as well if like they're having to rely on a financial support. So, and there's many different scenarios and combinations, but like, I think that there's that concern, and I think that even very, like, people who don't want to exert that power and are not coming from a place of wanting to abuse someone, sometimes they'll get, I think, scared of being in a relationship with a disabled person because there's a sense of like, I don't want to find that I'm controlling this person.
Well, and you feel, and as an able-bodied person, you might feel bad if the relationship doesn't work out and you leave this person.
Right. Especially if they're dependent on you, which is,
No,
it's hard. It's so hard.
It's all sorts of hurdles and a maze to navigate. I mean, we don't see the rest of Dawn and Jill's relationship in the film or in the
Do
play.
you think they're gonna make it?
I was thinking that as the credits were rolling. The very optimistic part of me thinks that they're going to make it, hopes that they make it. Given the relationship and Jill's personality, I think if anyone was to end it,
Well, definitely
first
her.
for real, it would be her. Absolutely.
I think for me, given if you take everything in the movie as as the text, like what actually happened, I think they would make it, just because I think the fact that she comes back, I don't think would necessarily usually happen in real life. I think that she was at the point where she was going to just run away. And I think in real life, people are more likely to just run away at that point.
True. But I mean, her intuition kicked in.
Right, but that's
You
what I
know?
mean. I think that was like a point of change, because I think that like if you are, yeah, you can always get to a point where you might have had an epiphany, and then it's kind of like something happens and you kind of revert back to old ways. So that's definitely probably is a consideration. Yeah.
All
Yeah,
in all,
it's hard.
yeah. In the end, they end up together, and they are both happy, and it just kind of ends with them. She comes running back in, and they end up. She finds him on the floor, and picks him up, and they hug, and that's it.
Yeah.
And they're together,
Roll credits.
basically.
Yeah. Literally. Yeah. So that's Butterflies Are Free.
Yes. Yep. Are we going to rate this puppy?
Yeah, do some blindness acuity tests. So in this segment, we rate the movies based on a scale of 2020 being a very not blind oriented movie, only sighted people involved. 2200, legally blind. Anything above 2200, very, very blind centered, blind positive, super blind. Not super crib
not
blind,
super crib, but super blind.
just
Yeah.
super blind, like lots
Super
of
blind.
blindness.
Yeah.
So we never like have a system where we like switch off or something.
It just is
I
what
feel
it is.
like I explain it and then I go to you. Do you want me to start this time?
Sure, you start. Yeah.
Just to mix it up a little
Yeah,
bit.
go for it.
I am gonna give this movie a 2400 because I feel really good about it. I think that it truly used blindness as like it truly came from that perspective, and it used it in a way that it felt so centered around this, and it didn't shy away from like the actual issues that we deal with all the time, and using those dynamics to like create it is kind of a coming of age story that is so genuine, and also just really incorporated a lot of like real things that and very believable ways how someone would interact, and also the ways they'd be limited. And then just it felt very just having a very confident character was really nice to see, and the fact that it felt very centered around his experiences, and not around sighted, like the need to be sighted, and even the characters that we saw, characters who had like ableism that society had given to them, and then we still really cared about those characters, but the idea of the movie was to kind of make fun of them being ridiculous when they had these ableist beliefs, and then we got to watch them like kind of come to reality. And I feel like that was a very nice thing to see, of like we didn't, and we were having trouble even fully, because I think it is a coming of age story for Don, but like his view on blindness didn't even need to change, because he was the one who was like, this is it, this is the I know what I am, and I don't feel like I have to figure that part out, but it's more just like kind of the romantic stuff that maybe was and just like, and the independence, but it didn't feel like he like it was really about him figuring anything out. It was much more about him kind of the people around him figuring things out. So yeah, I really thought this was a good blind representation. Thanks, Mom, for suggesting it.
Yeah, what a wonderful pick.
Yeah, Melissa.
Yes, I'm not going to take too long. I'm giving it a 2400. I knew when I sat down that's what I was going to give it.
Nice.
Yeah, and basically reiterating
High five.
basically reiterating pretty much the same reasons you did. This is a wonderful story, a very intimate story about a character who knows who they are and has to go through challenges and fails, but keeps going. And I thought it was a really wonderful, physically very good representation of a blind person. I mean, the actor, in a lot of the conversations that he and Jill, Goldie Hawn's character, would have, he wasn't looking at her. Yeah. And that is so important. It's just the little things like that made me completely buy that he is blind. And I again didn't do my research. I'm not sure if the actor is blind. I don't think he is.
But he's based off a real character, a real person. So I guess get points for that.
So maybe he talked. I'm sure he talked with the gentleman that this is based off of, and they talked about mannerisms and behaviors and stuff. Because I mean, honestly, you could have fooled me.
Yeah, it is really the best performance we've had so far, I think.
Yeah, and for that, 2400, highly, highly, highly recommend the film and or the play. Right.
Well, we need to read it, but it is like a lot of the same people did the play. Like I think actually he played the role in both.
Oh, really?
I believe so.
That does not surprise me. And then having Goldie Hawn play play Jill, because she was like the it girl.
Right. Yeah. She's kind of like the star power.
Gotta have a star. Yeah. Well, and the woman who played Mom, she won a supporting Oscar that year for her work in the film.
That's the one Oscar that.
Yeah. I mean, she's great. I mean, all these, we have our three main characters, so performances all around were fantastic.
Yeah, and each actor had a lot to do, so that definitely, made it feel like you got a really good sense. So nice.
Recommend. Go watch.
Yeah, definitely. We can definitely recommend it as a learn more about blind people in your life movie. Blind people approved.
Yes, indeed. I think we both rented it on iTunes.
I think I did on Amazon.
Okay, on iTunes, but yeah, you can rent it. I don't think it's streaming anywhere at the moment.
It's just rentable on different platforms. And I imagine you could probably get a DVD.
Oh, I'm sure you could.
There's also another movie that's about the same, that's based off the same guy, his biography, that's like a made-for-TV movie that apparently is not available on any, apparently it doesn't even have like a DVD, but it is, I think, all on YouTube. So
fantastic. Okay.
I think we can actually watch it.
Do you have a title?
Oh, yeah. So it's called To Race the Wind. So that, I think that pretty much sums it up. And maybe we'll come back to his story. But
definitely.
Yeah. So the next thing for next week that we're gonna do is sort of not a full announcement, but we're gonna do a couple more episodes of C. So
yes. Yeah, I'm super excited. We watched episodes 1 and 2 on the first podcast that we did about C, and now we're watching episodes 3 and 4.
So if you just started listening, at least go back and listen to that other C episode.
And C is available on Apple TV Plus, which is on any and all Apple devices. And if you recently bought a new Apple device, you were given 90 days free. So that's how I'm watching it. But
nice. So we should probably get on this. Make sure we get all of them watched.
In 90 days. Yeah. Or, I'm sorry, not 90 days. I was given a year free.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't have to worry about this until next year.
Well, then never mind.
But the show is available on Apple TV Plus.
Yeah, and we'll be watching episodes 3 and 4. We'll see how. Well, yeah, I'm excited.
We'll see.
We'll see. That sounded like Matthew McConaughey.
Oh my God, yes.
So now we're gonna say our thing that we're enjoying. the thing that's
What's dope this week?
yeah, what's dope this week.
Dope this week.
You should start because I still have not fully thought of mine.
Oh, great. Okay, cool. What's dope this week for me is my ukulele. One of my improv friends got a ukulele for cheap, like right before quarantine started. And he is learning how to play songs, but he's also learning chords so that he can write his own songs. And he's written a bunch of really cool ones. Anything Can Kill You is super fun. They're all about
true.
Yes, they're all about germs and quarantine.
Oh,
We think this is going to be his quarantine album because it's awesome.
I'm sure that will be, oh God, thousands and thousands of hours of quarantine albums.
I'm sure. So, jealous person that I am, I decided I want to do that. So I bought a ukulele, and I'm learning how to play it. I can play You Are My Sunshine and Lean on Me.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Lean on me when you're not strong.
I'll be your friend. Yeah. So
that's fun.
It's been a lot of fun. It's definitely a very slow process. I was like, man, I just want to get on this thing and jam, but I got to learn chords first. And I have a whole slew of songs I want to learn how to play. So yeah, my ukulele
motivation.
Yes. So my ukulele is what's dope this week.
Nice. That's awesome. Mine, my cool thing for the week, or my dope thing, is I've been meditating for many years now. And it's like a thing where I have like a streak, which really helps me to keep doing it. Like, because not breaking a streak is a very good motivator for me. And I'm like at 1,500, I think, days in a row.
Oh my God.
Or like past that, I think.
I could only ever get like a week, if that. I'm terrible.
It's definitely like, especially once you get higher, and it's partly my personality, but it is definitely has helped me so much to like have something that is accountable, so that it's like as it gets more and more, I'm just like, oh, now it's a much bigger deal if I break the streak, and that's helped. I guess it works, and that I'm at like 1,500 days. But I guess I'm sort of reticent to talk about it. I don't know.
Oh, yeah,
I like it.
Okay.
It is a weird thing because like I know there's a lot of like performative meditating. And so I'm always very like timid about it, I guess. But it is like something that I think has really helped me in my life. So I guess coming from the perspective of like sharing that it is very accessible these days, and if it's something that people find would be helpful, then I think it's a cool thing to know about. But also no judgment if that's not your deal. But the app I use is called Headspace. It's one of the main apps. But there's like, you can do a lot of different packs of like for different things, kind of categories of things like creativity or self-esteem or something. That's the two that I'm doing right now. But yeah, it's a nice part of my day, and it's helped me to kind of, just reorder how my brain works. And I'm very thankful to meditation for that. That's my thing.
That sounds pretty dope to me.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's about it. We have a little bit of credits. Our theme song is by Lucia Fasano. If you would like to tweet at us, you can tweet at us at White Cane Pod. If you want to check out our awesome Instagram with the descriptions of all the pictures we post, it's Citizen White Cane. If you want to check us out on Facebook or like us, you can just do that at Citizen White Cane is on Facebook, and you can even send us an email at citizenwhitecanepod@gmail.com. And if you would like to send us a voice message, there is a link in the show notes. Definitely do that. Have you seen Butterflies Are Free before? And are you a butterfly? And do you like being free? Have you seen the play or been in the play? I don't know. Do you think San Francisco is the same as New York. Just whenever. Have a movie that you want us to talk about. Those are the options for this week. No.
Perfect.
But you can do any of those things. And we would love to hear from you.
Yeah.
And then, of course, rate, review, and subscribe.
Please do. Please do. Tell your friends. And we will see everybody next week.
See
what I did there?
Okay, bye.
Bye.